Hi everyone! Let's take a minute to talk about the connecting evidence to a claim graphic organizer. So the essential point of this is to help you take the evidence that you choose and connect it to the claim that you are making in response to the prompt. So it helps you make those connections, helps you essentially build a body paragraph in the end. So if you don't remember, our prompt is right here. It is, to what extent should teens be allowed to use social media, and what role should parents play in setting social media limits for their children? That wasn't on your chart, but it was on the board, and it's what we responded to, and then you wrote a refined stance. So the next piece that you actually see on your form is claim, and that is where you're going to write that refined stance. So you had an initial stance, and then we refined it once you actually read the articles. So I'm going to take the refined stance of parents should play a direct and active role in monitoring their teens' use of social media. The next piece is basically your argument to support this claim. When you write an essay, you have a main claim and then you have sub-arguments that defend the ultimate claim that you're making. So in order to prove that parents should play a direct and active role in monitoring their teens' use of social media, I'm going to argue that teens' brains are not fully developed, often leading to poor decision making. Parents need to be directly involved so they can help guide their children. From here, I need to look at the evidence, connection, and possible outcome or result. This will help me build essentially a chunk or a paragraph of my essay. So if you take a look here, you can see that I have chosen the quote, "We need to be their frontal lobe for them when they are in their teens." This is from the first article that we read. And let me take a second and go back. The purpose of the paragraph. So why am I writing this paragraph? What am I trying to accomplish? Well, in this particular paragraph or chunk of my writing, I am trying to persuade the audience that teens need guidance in decision making. So persuasion is essentially my purpose. So back to that evidence, we're talking about the frontal lobe, and I want to explain how that piece of evidence, the idea of their frontal lobe not being fully developed, essentially, connects to my overall claim, which let me put that kind of back on the screen. And so I'm going to connect it to that parents should play a direct and active role in monitoring their teens' use of social media. So I'm going to go ahead and read that paragraph that I've created that responds to that. It's essentially answering these questions that are here in the connection box. So I'm trying to think about how my evidence connects to my purpose, how can I help readers see the relevance or importance of this fact to the context or situation, and how and why does this evidence support my claim. So here is my paragraph. Joyce references Oberschneider as child psychologist throughout her article to help persuade her audience that teens would benefit most from having parents who converse with their children about their activities online. She reminds us parents need to be their frontal lobe for them when their children are in their teens, in order to encourage us to be more involved in monitoring a teen's use of social media. While we would love to believe that our teens can be completely independent, the science proves that teenagers need their parents to help them make more rational choices. The brain is simply not equipped to handle many of the emotionally trying circumstances that come with being a teenager. Access to online platforms and social media have only increased teens' exposure to situations in which their frontal lobes may lead them down the wrong path. Parents who are directly involved can teach their children how to appropriately navigate and respond to social media. Okay, so now you can see some highlights on the screen. I've highlighted it in a corresponding color. So in this connection piece, the part of my paragraph that connects the evidence to my purpose is really, in this case, kind of making a suggestion that the author is persuading her audience in order to kind of help begin to persuade my audience. So this other writer and a child psychologist, so it's a reference to an authority, is helping to persuade my audience. And then you can see the relevance or importance really does tie directly in with what's yellow highlight, which is how and why does this evidence support your claim. So you can see that there's a piece here, and I'm going to highlight a little bit in green. So essentially this area here is helping to introduce the quote and establish it. And then in the yellow, I'm going on to explain what that quote means and how it's significant. Let's look at the next box over, the possible outcome or result. This can be part of your body paragraph, but it's also something that I think of as your conclusion. In the end of your essay, you should come to a point where you're explaining, so what? Why does all of this matter? So this column you could actually use ultimately in the end and maybe just do a piece of during your body paragraphs. Here's what it says. Without parental guidance, teens will make irrational decisions. Therefore, parents who take the initiative to play an active role in their child's use of social media help to prevent many of the negative repercussions of unbridled use. When parents begin to see the benefits of this monitoring, the culture of and expectations for the use of social media will begin to shift. We can encourage a culture in which parents create open lines of communication and act as guides who ultimately help their children become responsible, well-rounded adults. So you can see that this last paragraph is really telling the so what. Why does all this matter? Why are we spending time talking about this issue of social media? Because ultimately, we want to create a culture where students, where teenagers really can make good decisions about their use of social media. So whatever stance you want to take is fine. You can choose something anywhere from parents should monitor completely what their teens do to parents should not monitor them at all. But what you need to do is provide the evidence, make that connection, make it clear to your reader why you chose that evidence and how it supports your claim, and ultimately talk to your audience about why it matters. So what? I hope that helped. Let me know, and good luck.